When Mamaya, who later became a well-known preacher, went to a teacher for personal guidance, he was asked to explain the sound of one hand. Mamaya concentrated upon what the sound of one hand might be. "You are not working hard enough," his teacher told him. "You are too attached to food, wealth, things, and that sound. It would be better if you died. That would solve the problem." The next time Mamaya appeared before his teacher, he was again asked what he had to show regarding the sound of one hand. Mamaya at once fell over as if he were dead. "You are dead all right," observed the teacher, "but how about that sound?" "I haven't solved that yet," replied Mamaya, looking up. "Dead men do not speak," said the teacher. "Get out."
When I first started my career so many years ago, I thought, coming back from India, everybody was interested in the way. I really did. I started out as a kid being very interested in what this whole thing was all about. Why are we here? So I came back and I started teaching after being ordained and coming back from India. And I looked out at the congregation and it was nothing but a bunch of dead people. In fact, I was shocked and appalled, surprised to really understand that it's really a social gathering. It's where people come, they pay their penance for being what they are and the way they think, and then they go have cookies and coffee with each other, and that's as far as it ever went. When you start thinking about the meaning of your life, you've got to start looking at the absence of thought. The greatest teacher that ever lived is not the one that is obviously before you, or any that have gone on before me, any of them. It's one thing, and I found that out when I was teaching many, many years ago, trying to show people, and I did everything I could to show them how their minds worked in little circles. The great teacher, come to find out, is futility. Who'd have thought? The more a person's life becomes futile, and you may take thousands of lifetimes for them to truly understand the futility of the way they are living, the more futile your life becomes, the more you will be exasperated and eventually want to understand the way in you. The way is not something you can do in your head. It's beyond thinking. So what are we talking about here with the mind? In Zen, we give something called koans. The reason I am so attracted to Zen is it forces the student as well as the teacher outside of the mind. You're not thinking in little tiny circles, round and around. If you notice, when you were younger, the circle maybe started here, and it took a really long time for it to get back to the other point where it started. It's really interesting. But as you get older, you'll find the circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller until the only thing you're thinking about is your body and your mind and how it's attached to your body, what your body wants, and whether or not you're bored. And I've been there, I've done that, I don't like seeing that, I do like seeing this, I don't like that, I do like this. Pretty soon the I don't likes and I do likes start to become conflict. And that is how thought is born, out of conflict. One thought bouncing up against another. So all during this series, we've been talking about the sound of one hand clapping. What does that mean? Every single discourse from number 1 to this one has been about creating a space within you where our thoughts do not conflict with each other, where I'm not fighting my thoughts. In our story, in our final story, this student has been working upon himself, quote unquote, in the Zendo. He's been meditating, he's been going to discourse, he's been listening to everything the master had to say, but it's all gone to his intellect. because he's selfish, has a lot of pride, and really isn't very industrious when it comes to working on himself. He doesn't really care. But there he is. And so the master says to him, okay, it is time for you to answer your koan. What is the sound of one hand clapping? I've heard all the jokes, so don't go there. But I had students when I used to offer this to them, when I was teaching meditation classes and trying to help them. I had them go on the internet. They would get their assignment. I would tell them, I want you to work on this koan. What is the sound of one hand clapping? It's a koan to help you understand the futility of your own thinking. How futile it is to think over and over and over and over and over to nauseam again and again and again the same kind of thoughts. So what would they do? They go on the internet. They thought they were really clever. So they go on the internet and type in one sound of one hand clapping. They get a couple of answers that people had written on blogs and such, and then come to class and give me the answer. And I'd look at them and I'd go, come on, really? As if I wouldn't know that they were cheating. You see, it's all about just getting through. Trying to get through what it is you're trying to get through to get the answer. And I don't know what you think is going to happen. Well, obviously they didn't get it, and they didn't fool me for one moment. Most of those people quit. Why? It's too hard. They want their thoughts just the way they want their thoughts. They think they don't need to think outside their own thinking. But we all do. My misery, your misery, isn't caused because God somewhere decides that he doesn't like you anymore. You need punishing. I suffer due to my own spiritual immaturity. And when I'm not interested in what's beyond my thoughts, which is enlightenment, beauty, love, awakening, joy, bliss, then I'm confined in my thoughts, and there I will stay. And you can add as many spiritual thoughts as you want to your life. Have all the spiritual thoughts you want, all the affirmations you believe are going to make your life better, all the things that you think are going to make your life happier, give you the wealth and the right person to live with, your little soulmate, and you're still going to find yourself miserable. Because the joy of your life is not contained in your thought. The joy in your life is contained in the lack of a conflict between one thought and another, rubbing up against each other and creating great misery in our life. The misery of your living isn't because you're a bad person. The misery of our life is because we insist that we keep thinking the way we do. I cannot change that in you. I can't individuate you from your thoughts. You will have to finally decide when you have had enough. And if and when that moment comes where you decide, I've had enough of my thinking, you will come to the sound of one hand clapping. So why don't students really answer their koans? Why are you not interested in any of this? You don't see any real purpose in it, do you? I like what the master said. You're too attached to food, wealth, and things. You're not focused. You're not working on yourself. He was right. The master was right. Everybody is too focused on things, food, wealth, and all the things that make them believe that they're comfortable or better people or get them what they want. We're in a culture and a society that's on demand for what we want. People don't work at anything. The whole idea is not to have to work and yet get all the reward. That is not the way of Zen. That is not the way of your life. We all have to look at ourselves eventually at one moment or another in our life and ask, how did I live this thing? What was it really all about for me? What did I do? And if you look at your life, you will see that a lot of what was done in your life was just circular thinking. Thinking in very small ways, as small as you can, and then defending that to your own death and to your own demise, the idea that you were right, that there was some sort of self-righteousness being involved here. What if I told you this? Just play with me for a moment. What if there was a life so much more beautiful than the one you are currently living and you were only that far away from it? That it was just a hair's breadth, as I say, away from it. It has to do with awakening. What am I talking about when I say awakening? If you stay in your mind, you will never know your heart. If you never know your heart, you will never know your awakening. If you've ever been in the presence of someone who has awakened or feels a sense of this love inside, you would know. There isn't any bounds. There isn't anything right or wrong or good or bad. There isn't anything unique about them that you can put your finger on, and you can't mimic them. In our story, the little student thought, oh, I'll just mimic my way through this. So what does he do? He thinks, well, if the master wants to know what the sound of one hand clapping is, and I don't really know what it is, I'll just fall down and pretend like I'm dead. Maybe he'll figure it out. That's what students often do. So he does. He falls down and pretends like he's dead. The master looks at him, probably with a grin, and says, well, I see you are dead. But what about that sound? What is the sound of one hand clapping? And the little student looks up at him and says, I haven't figured that one out yet. End of story. You're not going to be able to mimic your way through your life. You're not going to be able to think your way through this. Oh, you can get through the contingencies of certain strategies that you need to sustain maybe a lifestyle that you think is supportive of your emotions and all the fear and anger of your emotions. But that isn't going to take your emotions away. That isn't going to transform them. Time doesn't diminish them. It only increases them. And that's the problem with emotion. Emotions are about a certain relationship with my body that is nothing more, as I've told you before, than a great big tape recorder that responds to everything that has ever happened to us in our life. This little monk had no intent to answer his koan. He's lost in his own thought because his focus, his concern is about food, wealth, and things. That's all he cares about. And that's basically where most people are. Now, you think I'm asking you to be a fanatic, and I'm not. You think I'm asking you to be maybe devoted. I am. Devoted to what? To the practice of liberating yourself from your emotions, and hence a new mind is born. A mind no longer fighting, no longer in contrast to other thoughts, no longer comparing, no longer allowing thinking to guide our way. What is thinking? Just look at it. Look at the quality of your thoughts. And if that isn't enough futility for you, nothing will be. I watch people. I sit, I take walks, and I meet people here and there in my daily life. And I often ask them, well, what are you doing? What is your life about? I have elderly people tell me they don't know why they're still here. Everybody they love is gone. Faulty thinking, futile thinking. I have others who are thinking about making the big kill in their career, and they're looking at buying or selling or getting lots of money, and then they think they're out of the game and they can just sit back, eat, drink, and be merry. Everybody has some thought about how their life should or will turn out. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, sitting in the chair that I sit in sessions with people, that it never turns out the way they believe it's going to turn out. And 99% of the time, they're extremely disappointed. The only thing that matters in the course of a human being's life is the gap between one thought and another. The pause, the space between our thoughts, which is where the communion with our life really happens. It is in that moment, in that very precious moment, that we find the meaning of ourselves in our own life. And in that meaning is love. No, it's not the love that your body and your mind believe in, the one that gratifies every part of you. It is a love that exceeds your knowledge and your belief. It goes beyond faith and circumstances and conditions. It comes to a certain moment in your life where you really understand the nature of yourself as love. And then, what do you have? But the meaning and the significance of everything in your life. Everything becomes deeply, deeply important. you start to realize the consequences of the love that lives within you upon your living. Thank you for watching. Please forgive me. Namaste. We're going to close off this series. I want to talk a little bit about Kevin. We're devoting this whole series. Kevin used to come up here to Yokoji.
Yeah.
And you were his Roshi, his teacher, as was I at one time. Both of us have recently lost him. He passed away. Both of us feel the same way. Impermanence, let's talk about it.
It's a fact.
I have never liked it.
No.
I'll be honest.
No.
As a teacher and as a student, which I consider myself to be, it is the one thing I have most disliked.
Yeah.
You know, nothing stays the same. And if I had it within my power, I'd bring him back. I'd want to hear all the same jokes and all that.
Yeah,
how do
for
you
sure.
teach impermanence to people?
I don't teach it as a thing.
Right.
You know, it's just basically point out that in your life things are impermanent. You know, is that it doesn't matter. You know what you do is your good looks are going to go. You know.
Yeah, I never had them in the first place, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, you know, and things come and go. Your money comes and goes.
Your body changes.
Your body changes. Your view changes. You know, basically everything changes.
In a culture that we live in, where youth is more important than anything else.
Yeah.
How do you teach impermanence? I mean, you point it out, but when something happens in a person's life, they get ill or something both beautiful or quote unquote not so beautiful happens to them, and you tell them, well, I always say, you know, something beautiful happens, something they want, and I say, well, it could go real quick, you know.
Yeah.
There's another side to that.
Yeah.
Are you
definitely.
willing? Do you love it enough to let it go?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to teach in that way.
And they look at me and say no.
It's reflective of reality, no, and I agree. It's one of the hardest things. I think people think on one level they're immortal.
Yep.
So from that perspective is that they don't really need to do anything about the things that are, say, not working, or take advantage of the things that are right in front of them. And that's one of the things that people have to be disabused of, you know, basically. And obviously it's important with that teaching to show the value of whatever's coming in, whether it be good or bad. It doesn't matter, and to appreciate life, because it's not the content, it's the living of life that's the most important thing. Because I'd rather be alive than dead, personally.
You would?
Yeah.
What's the
on
difference?
Some levels.
What's
the difference?
What's the difference?
Yeah, well, there's that too. There's on the deepest level, there's no difference.
No, there is none.
No.
We're just shadows. We're just moving around here.
But while I am alive, to use this, to the best of my ability, and to appreciate that.
In your own meditation time, how's impermanence played a role? I know how it has with me.
Well, it's in many ways. The first thing is that I appreciate just being alive. Even when it's difficult, I can really say that I really appreciate it. In other words, I'm very grateful to be able to draw a breath and to see, hear, taste, touch, just the basic things like that. Then obviously beyond that, for what I actually have, and health, etc., etc.
What if we don't? What if our health is diminishing?
Well, I mean, then, that will happen, and that's why, basically, I talk to myself and I talk to the students about to appreciate what I have right now. And then even when I'm sick, I'll probably sometime this will be the best that my life will be.
Yep.
So to learn from that particular time, etc. So for me, is whatever comes up, it's important to use it as a teaching and to learn from it. Yeah.
Sitting in Zazen is impermanence. Every moment
Everything's is different.
changing, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like a kaleidoscope of very different things. And if I engage in my thoughts, I ruin it.
yeah,
But if I can just observe
hmm
the the whole thing in the impermanence of it, then it becomes precious. And I have found for myself that it's about precious.
yeah,
Every moment precious unto itself.
yeah.
But I still
Sounds precious.
don't
Yeah.
like impermanence.
No, no,
You know, I mean,
no.
my human part just goes, no. I want everybody, I want all my little chickens,
Yeah,
in my hen house and safe and sound.
yeah. Yeah, as we say in England, we want it boxed off.
Yeah.
Yeah, understood. And so therefore, I don't need to engage with it. You know, I can sort of be separate from it.
I remember when Kevin told me he was, having his difficulty, gonna die. It was a very, very difficult moment. Even,
Yeah.
for as many years as I knew him
Mhm.
and loved him, that impermanence had struck again.
Yeah.
So,
And I think the nice thing with Kevin is we didn't have to step in much to
Nope.
do much encouragement. He accepted that fact, and that was a beautiful,
Yeah.
a beautiful thing.
And-
And knowing I couldn't do much to help, it made it even easier in that sense that he was prepared.
Yeah.
He saw this is his nature, this is an aspect of his nature,
and it's,
and it's his time.
well, as impermanence would have it, our time is over.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for having us and letting us be. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being who you are. You are an amazing, amazing Roshi. And if you get a chance, come up to Yokoji Zen Center up here in Idlewild. Enjoy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
My honor. We'll be right back. Well, here we are at the end of the series, and it was an honor to do it. The sound of one hand clapping. I hope that you learned something by watching the series, and if you missed any part of it, you can always go get the 4-disc series with all of the 8 discourses that I did on the subject of the sound of one hand clapping. And I really hope you see this as a gift, as a way of making a contribution to your life. What was the series all about? You're not stuck living where you are. If your life you think is doing really well, just wait. Just wait. And if you think that your life isn't doing as well, just wait. Just wait. Stop looking at well and better and good and bestest and start looking at the authenticity of it. Have a direct experience with your life. Look at your life beyond the contemplation part and start feeling the love that's inside of it. It isn't about getting what you want and healing your body or having great wealth. It isn't about having everyone like you. It isn't about getting everything you want. It's about one single precious moment that most people just simply forget because they're so busy trying to be complicated in what they have, what they want, and what they believe in. I've enjoyed the series. I want to thank Tenshin at the Yokoji Mountain Zen Center for all of his beautiful help with us and the beautiful interview he allowed me to do with him. He is a very, very touching person. As many of you know, this series was devoted and dedicated to one of my former students, Kevin. Kevin Riley was a very interesting person. He used to come to me for sessions, and we would have workshops together and retreats. And he was always a lot of fun and carried a lot of love within him. And I want to devote these 8 programs to him because if it weren't for him, we wouldn't be here. Let me tell you why. We were going to go to Japan and we were going to do these TV programs there. And with the tsunami and all the stuff that happened, it really wasn't very good to travel halfway across the world for all of this. So we decided to do something different. And I was having lunch with Kevin before he passed on. I said, Kevin, why don't we do it up at Yokoji? And he said, yeah, why don't we? And we got it going together. And he is partly responsible for all of this happening, and I want to thank him. I want to thank my crew. I want to thank Merlin Productions. I don't know what I'd do without them. And They're very wonderful. Mitch and his wife are very generous with Aspire. A lot of what you see here is purely their art and their talent and has very little to do with me. So I want you to understand that. And lastly, but not least, those of you who are sponsors. Those of you who have helped us through so many tight places and have given your donations to make all this possible. How can I thank you for being generous? Not everybody is generous these days, believe me. So when people really give, it's because they see through themselves the love that lives within them. And they're giving not to me or the crew, they're giving to the world. By watching the program, by doing some of the meditations, looking at the website, you might find something there. One of the Tibetan pulsing meditations. I would start off with catharsis if I were you, and then work my way into some of the newer meditations that I'm offering. Come and be with me at a workshop or at a retreat. It would be best to come to a workshop first to get preparatory work, and then come and be with me for the really important experience of a spiritual retreat where you're removed from all of the circumstances and conditions of your life, where you can hear the sound of one hand clapping, where you can have those moments in your life between one thought and another and really realize there's something in the midst of you that has always been there. You're not lost. You're not afraid. You're none of the things you've been taught, told to believe in. You are simply authentic love. You are the direct experience you've been looking for. You've simply forgotten it. And what I'm here to do is help guide you a little bit here and a little bit there. My only job is to tell you, go right here, go left there, stay in the middle path. I can give you so much if you are so willing. If it's something inside of you where you find meaning and significance in your life. The meaning and significance of a human being's life has nothing to do with who loves them and who doesn't, how much they have, where they live, and what they want. The significance of your life is found in that one moment of the sound of one hand clapping. You find that moment, you feel that moment, you know that moment, and all of a sudden everything in your life begins to change. The significance that means the most to you is the least important to the ego. Don't let your ego live your life. You have a chance right now, no matter where you are or who you are, to find the significance of what it is that lives inside you. It isn't hiding from you, and it's not being kept from you. It's right there. It is the sound of one hand clapping. Please forgive me. Namaste.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Hey, we have a chance to do good shows. Let's do some good shows.
Oh, shut up. Lower the bar.
Everybody rolling. Can you hear?
The sound of one show done.